Thanks for joining us at GN and the Gifted News Network. I'm Zach Mitchell, and this is the Evening News. Over the next few segments, we will investigate a special population in gifted education, the gifted athlete. One of our field reporters, Roy Mitchell, has more information about the development of this gifted population.
Hello world, this is Roy Mitchell. We know that the gifted athlete's body is blessed with quickness and agility. But what about brains? What are the cognitive and affective characteristics of the gifted? If you carefully study most any level of sports, the most effective athletes are not just those with mere agility and muscularity. They're athletes who combine their physical skills with ability to actively think and modify their actions while participating. Psychologists have studied the personalities of runners, wrestlers, and rowers, amongst others. One such study comes from Garland and Berry. They found 3 predictors of good performance: emotional stability, extroversion, and tough-mindedness. Zach, the conclusion here is that what's inside the gifted student-athlete's brain is just important as their brawn.
Thank you, Roy. It appears that mind conquers matter, even for the gifted athlete. But that athlete needs support. Roy, what roles do the cultures and environment play for their development? And what about that of the family and community?
Glad you asked, Zach. The culture bestows a great praise upon our most gifted athletes, but the expectations for all athletes can be quite demanding and, in some cases, demeaning. 4 characteristics and effects of culture and environment on the development of the gifted athlete are: number 1, extreme pressure. Youth sports, as we all know, are activities that are often filled with an intense atmosphere that is driven more by winning than by developing skills. This kind of pressure to perform contributes to the next effect: a rush to competition. An article at voices.yahoo.com is particularly critical of this development of the athletically gifted child. It kind of states that athletes are trained earlier now to be trained in a pre-professional manner, and by doing such, basic things like basic motor skills and physical fitness is almost completely ignored. Students and athletes lack that free, unstructured play with games like tag, or even chasing one's dog has you moving right and left and changing directions and ducking and diving and backpedaling and doing some of the things that are better than any drill can be constructed by a coach. Instead, we have young athletes who are 6 to 8 years old who might play Little League baseball or youth soccer or many organized athletic activities. They spend a great deal of practice time standing around listening to an adult or just waiting their turn. Which brings us to a third effect, which is mislabeling by coaches. The article on the website you see there is an interesting study. This article says there's strong evidence that athletes whose birthday fall earlier in the year are more likely to be identified as talented. These older athletes appear bigger and they appear stronger, and thus coaches and other players often recognize them as the better athletes. These were the players that made the youth teams, or at least they were the ones that likely played the most because of their physical size. Therefore, the least desired players, the younger ones, were more likely to drop out of the sport as it continued on. It sounds like what might be a far-fetched theory, but this has been confirmed by studies. As you can see, we have Baxter Jones and the others that did studies on this. And those studies kind of confirmed this idea. And what they did, they had the birthday guidelines changed. Instead of having it in, say, January, the guidelines would be in, say, June. And it confirmed that still the ones that were born near June, the oldest ones closer to that deadline, were the ones that turned out to be the better athletes that did the most playing. A fourth one is ample opportunity for development of the gifted athlete. Even here in Rome, we have YMCA, rec department opportunities, school opportunities, where athletes can really end up getting in a lot of activities. Now, I'd like to talk about the role of family and community. To enhance the capability of these gifted athletes, you have family and community that often have to fight our culture's glorification of athletes. Parents and community should enhance the student athlete's growth and improvement, but sometimes the fact that an athlete is gifted breeds complacency. An article at FamilyFirst.com refers to a belief of Dr. Jim Taylor, who's a sports psychologist. He says that athletic giftedness is both a blessing and a curse. Sometimes it means kids have a false sense of security and accomplishment. Consequently, if an athlete can succeed without trying hard, they may give less effort. You know, this might be a hard notion for parents and the community to fight, but Taylor has a suggestion. His suggestion is that he offers that you don't tell your children or kids in the community that they're gifted. He says, first of all, what's the point? Because most parents are notoriously bad judges of giftedness. And when you tell children that they're gifted, they might think that it's a free pass for not working hard since they have a gift. In conclusion here, the conclusion is that success of young gifted athletes may hinder their ability to develop a good work ethic. Conscientious parents and coaches in the school and community have the initial chance to help young athletes overcome that curse.
Now let's go to Perry Loggins, who has more information about the gifted athlete.
Good evening, this is Sports Center, and I am Perry Loggins. Hosting tonight's show with me will be Maggie Turner. Thanks, Maggie. Tonight we'll be having our 58,358th episode. Why is that number special? It's not the 100th, 1,000, 2 1/3, 4th. What gives? Tonight we are proud to continue our mini-series on the gifted athlete. Yesterday, Roy Mitchell, our senior reporter, gave you an intro into the heart of the balmy Bronx. Thanks, Roy, for the tie. And who was the Russian in the background? Sometimes it's not enough to define what something is. We also need to explain what it's not. This is certainly true of gifted children. It's not just always enough to explain what it means to be gifted. We also need to explain what a gifted child is not. We need to be aware of the developmental milestones of gifted children to understand the development of this special group. Now here's a list of advanced developmental milestones from ages 3 months to 5 years. Let it be noted that there is much variance in the times by which the normal and gifted child will reach the following milestones. There will be considerable variation, with some children reaching them a little earlier and some a little later. Gifted children, however, tend to reach several milestones weeks, months, and even years earlier than average children. This pertains especially to the gifted athlete. This comes from Carol Bainbridge of the Indiana Association of Gifted. At 3 months of age, the child is able to follow moving objects or a person with their eyes. They're able to turn their heads towards bright colors and lights and towards the sound of human voice. They're able to react to peekaboo games. Thanks, Maggie. They're able to smile when smiled at, and finally they're able to grasp a rattle immediately when placed in their hand. At 6 months of age, they're able to hold steady when sitting. Able to pull up from a sitting position if their hands are grasped. They're able to babble and make many coherent sounds. And they're able to know faces. At a year of age, they're able to place groups of small objects using their thumb and forefinger. Put small blocks in and out of containers. Crawl on their hands and knees. Take steps. Walk with one hand held. Say their first words. And understand simple commands. At 18 months, they're able to walk without help, able to scribble with crayons, follow simple one-step directions. This is particularly useful for the gifted athlete. They can say approximately 8 to 10 words. They may repeat words heard in conversation. They will look at the person who is speaking to them. They can point to something when asking a question. And they can repeat familiar activities. Again, this is particularly important for the gifted athlete to be able to do. At 2 years of age, we find that many children who are gifted are able to walk upstairs, take things apart, explore surroundings, follow directions, have a vocabulary of 200 to 500 words, use 2 to 3 word sentences, and point to body parts. At 3 years of age, they're able to pay attention for 3 to 5 minutes. This is particularly important with the athlete, as he or she must listen to their coach for that duration. They must remember what happened yesterday. They know numbers in order. They can follow simple commands and ask questions. Approximately 3 years of age, you do begin to see the traits come out for the gifted and or talented athlete. At 4 or 5 years of age, they are able to write their name, know colors, count 5 to 10 objects, follow interactions given at once, ask direct questions, has a large vocabulary, knows their own name, copies their own name, and is interested in cause and effect. Finally, they're able to play within the rules. And now for a closer look at the adolescent year milestones. Thanks, Meg. Okay, run to Barnes & Noble today, but watch out for traffic, because we have an incredible book to offer a parent or teacher of a gifted adolescent. It is entitled Talented Teenagers, The Roots of Success and Failure, published by Cambridge University Press, written by Samuel Whalen. This book is the most comprehensive look at talented teenagers. It reports the results of a study of teens from 2 suburban schools in Illinois. The data reveal that day-to-day lives of gifted adolescents. This book deals with many issues, particularly factors involved in remaining engaged in one's talent field during their adolescent years. Recommendation for educators mainly, but many chapters will be good reading for parents also. 2 more books that we need to mention. The Talent Search, Purposes, Rationale, and Role in Gifted Education, written by Paul Ozweski, PhD. The Talent Search concept includes 3 important components: diagnosis and evaluation of domains and levels of talent, educational placement and guidance, and talent development opportunities. Again, this is particularly important to the athlete as they are to search for summer programs or competitions that they would thrive in athletically. There is a solid research base that supports the validity of the Talent Search identification protocol, the success of students in accelerated programs, and the benefits of participation. Talent Search has even had an effect on general education, particularly influencing athletes and their readiness for learning and timing and pacing of instruction. Talent Search programs need to take place, and steps need to be ensured to greater access, particularly to economically disadvantaged students. My second question dealt with similarities and differences among gifted athletes compared to the general population. Personality traits of gifted individuals tend to include high degrees of sensitivity, perfectionism, and intensity. This was noted by the famous Silverman in 1993. Tendencies among able children, whether gifted athletically or academically. Due to heightened sensitivities, external variables have a pronounced effect on the effective development of academically, athletically gifted individuals, and even greater impact on the social or emotional development of those possessing gifts that are less frequently addressed by schools. Students whose talents are rooted in domains other than those which society has chosen to serve or reward, the non-traditional gifted, are at a significant risk of underachievement. Although academic underachievement is one issue that confronts this population, it seems more critical to recognize the potential for underachievement in the non-traditional gifted student domain. This statement is significant. Though academic achievement is a concern to teachers and parents of any child, there must be a growing consciousness that academic success alone is unlikely to nurture in non-traditionally gifted students the zest, the commitment to task, the ability, the creativity upon which like performances are founded. From Gardner's theory, Sternberg's the pentagonal implicit theory, the theory of successful intelligences, have attempted to disseminate what is measurable giftedness, but Gagne's view of giftedness and talent is most suited for our topic today. Gagne in 2003 differentiates between giftedness and talent, proposing that giftedness represents innate abilities in multiple domains, while talent is a skill in a single domain, for example, sports, that has been systematically developed. The innate abilities fell into 4 aptitude domains: intellectual, creative, socio-affective, and sensory-motor. Gagne explains the process of developing talent occurs when the child or adolescent engages in systematic learning, training, and practicing. The higher the level of talent sought, middle school, high school, college, professional for instance, the more intensive these 3 activities will be. This process is helped or hindered by the action of 2 types of catalysts: intrapersonal and environmental. Intrapersonal catalysts include motivation and volition, which plays an important role in initiating the process of talent development, guiding it, and sustaining it through obstacles. Environmental catalysts exert their influence as well, including teachers, parents, siblings, and peers, and may exert a positive or negative influence. Finally, chance is a cause factor that affects the influence of other elements. It is a major factor in determining genetic inheritance. According to Gagne, the power of chance should not be ignored or given too much weight when assessing one's potential talent. Good night, everyone. For Maggie, Turner, and myself, happy gifting.
Thanks, Perry. We now turn to Haley Cooper for more gifted advice.
This first segment investigates the psychosocial development of the athletically gifted. Studies have been conducted to determine the varying degrees of social and emotional development of the athletically gifted and how they may affect interpersonal relationships of that population. Largely, research has shown that being athletically gifted positively contributes to the psychosocial development of young people. In particular, data has shown that athletically gifted students demonstrate higher levels of self-esteem than their non-gifted peers. Furthermore, studies have found that the athletically gifted enjoy school more and had improved interpersonal and leadership skills. In contrast, research has also shown the struggles that plague the athletically gifted. This special population of gifted students struggle with social development and with establishing relationships with peers outside of their specialty area. They also need the approval of their coaches and their teammates to act, and they live in a false reality. All of these difficulties have hindered the athletically gifted students' psychosocial development. Now, the second portion of this particular segment focuses on the discrimination this special group has historically faced. As with all minority groups, unfortunately, will find themselves victims of discrimination at one point or another, the athletically gifted have also been plagued by these stereotypes. Studies have shown that the general opinion about the athletically gifted is they are substandard academic performers or dumb jocks. This stereotype is so pervasive that research found that the athletically gifted students also considered this to be true. However, there is no solid data to validate this claim. The second misconception about the athletically gifted is that they have the easy life. This could not be farther from the truth either. In addition to all the pressures that come with being a teenager in today's world, the athletically gifted are under pressure associated with time demands of practice, training, traveling, and playing, as well as the physical and psychological pressures associated with athletic and academic performance. This report has been supplemented with the research of Julian Smith of the University of Georgia. In her particular article, Psychological Development Patterns in Athletically Gifted and Academically Gifted Post-Secondary Students, she focuses on the psychosocial development of these students and the discrimination that they may face in school and in society in general.
That wraps up this edition of the Gifted News. Good night, Rome, Georgia. Good night, Gifted World.